This month on In the Life, Linney brings the straight eye to us gay guys.
Lesbian.
And gals.
I really like the show.
The not-so-queer history of broadcasting. Bending reality.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Aniston.
And the hottest new brand on TV.
Us.
All this and Harvey on America's gay and lesbian news magazine, In the Life.
In the Life is funded in part by the H. Van Ameringen Foundation. Additional support provided by the Ford Foundation, the Gill Foundation, the Pride Foundation, the Jim Stepp and Peter Zimmer Funds of the Stonewall Community Foundation, and the annual support of In the Life members like you.
Welcome to In the Life. I'm Linney. This month, America's gay and lesbian news magazine takes on television. Did you know that more people watched the Super Bowl last year than voted in the presidential election? In fact, the hearts and minds of America are spending an average of 2.5 hours a day in front of the tube. All in all, it's safe to say that if there is such a thing as a national conversation, it's happening on TV. And tonight, In the Life asks what role LGBT Americans are playing in that conversation. Examining its roots,
gay people didn't even exist.
Its reality.
It's almost a condition of the casting of a show to have a gay person in the show.
And the forces that form it.
And the value of that advertising is based on how many people watch the show.
And Harvey sounds off.
With friends like Garry, we might as well have Clinton.
Given its influence on our culture, it is hard to believe that TV is actually less than 75 years old. But it was not until 1939 that a new novelty item called television first began showing up in the living rooms of a privileged few.
Television, first shown to the public at the World's Fair, now takes its place as a new American art and industry.
In less than a year, a flamboyant wrestler known as Gorgeous George had bent the lens of American television for the first time. It was, however, quickly flattened back out under the advance of World War II, as America's technical focus shifted from broadcasting to military communications. And in the Cold War that followed, it was the straight and narrow all around.
In the 50s and 60s, there were very little representations of gay characters, if at all. It seemed as though gay people didn't even exist.
Use Ajax! Boom, boom.
While we think that television is created to be able to entertain us and maybe inform us, it's actually made to be able to bring the most amount of eyes or viewers to the advertisers and the commercials that they create. So programming is really centered around the advertisements themselves.
And in the age of the modern nuclear family, a booming ad industry apparently found gay a tough sell.
The first show that we found was a program that nobody I've spoken to has ever heard of called Espionage, a spy who's being blackmailed by a rival, espionage organization because they believe he's gay. And the word homosexual is actually spoken.
While the spy fiction of the mid-60s allowed the broadcast homosexual to creep back onto the screen, it was not until 1967 that real-life gays made it to prime time in CBS's sensational special. And the picture wasn't pretty.
Homosexuality is, in fact, a mental illness.
I know that inside now I'm sick. I'm not sick just sexually. I'm sick in a lot of ways.
Meanwhile, the fictional homosexual turned up a few more times in shows like ABC's NYPD.
And the opening episode deals with homosexual blackmail. And the police characters are actually sympathetic to the gay characters, which is, for 1967, again, was kind of surprising.
By decade's end, the world would change again, dramatically, and so would representation.
This is the decade following Stonewall, the decade following the movement coalescing on the streets in a new and vibrant way. And it starts to play out in the 70s on television shows that were more provocative and were taking risks.
I'm not an interior decorator.
No, I thought all you fellas were.
What fellas?
You know, Tinkerbell.
The 70s, I guess, were the real beginning in terms of a lot of series actually dealing with the subject.
You had Archie Bunker being from a world in which nobody ever talked about all of these new things, suddenly being challenged by all of these people coming into his life, whether they were drag queens or they were gay, and challenging stereotypes.
Carol Connor's character, who's the bigot, has this very macho friend who's played by Phil Carey, whose character turns out to be gay. And Mike's character, Rob Reiner, has a friend who's very effeminate. This is played by Tony Geary. And of course, he turns out to be straight. So the whole idea in the episode is to play around with stereotypes and show how stupid it is.
In all that time, did I ever mention a woman?
Well, what difference does that make? You're a bachelor.
So?
I know, but bachelors, they're always acting kind of private.
What most people remember from the 70s as in terms of the first gay character was Billy Crystal's character on Soap.
As you can see, the Campbells don't have nearly as much money as the Tates. They do, however, have as many secrets.
He was, I think, the first gay character, gay regular character on a series that was sort of successfully incorporated, where the audience warmed up to him, even though it's not the most flattering character in the world.
I mean, we're brothers, and I'm not gay, so you're not gay. Anyway, you're too good in sports.
Dana, that has nothing to do with it.
You're not gay.
According to Flores, by 1980, 99.5% of American homes had at least one television set. But by 1982, gay life had been hit with a cataclysm, and so was gay representation on TV.
All this progress on television that began to happen in the 70s was completely and utterly stopped cold by AIDS. Gay people suddenly became invisible again or demonized dramatically.
Homosexuality, God puts it in the same category as murderers, thieves, prostitution.
After Rock Hudson died, of course, then the issue became propelled within the media, and then we had a barrage of media and television shows that portrayed gay white males struggling with this terrible disease.
Kaposi sarcoma. Even my doctor had to look it up. Nothing to worry about, he said. Usually happens to Italian men in their 60s.
Nonetheless, the closet door was now ajar, and a mounting conflict played out on screens across America.
I'm a homosexual, Dad. I'm gay. I want you to face that. Your son, Stephen, is gay.
Not Lebanese black. Lesbian. 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 Lesbian.
Hollywood was experimenting, and yes, they would put disclaimers on television first, warn people about it. There would be an uproar from the religious right. People like Richard Kramer, who wrote for 30-something, they were pioneers. They were the gay people who brought the idea to the networks and said, we need to explore this territory. And I think in the late 80s, as we saw 30-something breaking ground, showing two gay men in bed, it led to the wave of more fully formed gay characters in the 90s.
I don't believe in making people uncomfortable, but I also don't believe in lying.
The 90s followed with a decade of firsts. First lesbian kiss. First drag supermodel TV star. First gay prison sex.
I know a lot of you are thinking, gosh, not another show on gays and lesbians on television.
First real live out LGBT folks singing and dancing and telling jokes on public TV. A trauma so acute that the pending broadcast sent Bob Dole to the Senate floor in protest.
Laying down their quality smokescreen while they shovel out funding for gay and lesbian variety shows.
You mean this isn't American movie classics?
Nonetheless, In the Life made it to the screen in 1992, challenging the established notion of how gay folks would be seen and who would get to represent them.
2 years later, PBS also drew the wrath of the religious right when a certain naive straight girl from Ohio led the nation through Armistead Maupin's oh-so-controversial Tales of the City. A serialized soap opera set in the San Francisco of the 1970s, Tales garnered the highest ratings in PBS history and won the coveted Peabody Award. In celebration of Tales' enormous success, PBS canceled its sequel.
I like you. Well, don't stop.
And in 1996, RuPaul took VH1 where no TV station had gone before.
The RuPaul show on VH1 was a direct result of my giving an award on the VH1 Fashion Awards. I got the script, and it was very bitchy. I don't do bitchy. I'm sassy. I don't do bitchy, and there's a big difference. And a lot of people who maybe aren't gay wouldn't know the difference between the two.
Welcome back. Now, my next guests are not gay, but I bet a whole bunch of lesbians wish they were.
It was amazing because nothing like that had ever happened in this country or in the world before.
And then Ellen came on television. She chose to come out of the closet on her show as her character, and that really was groundbreaking.
The greatest moment that I think swept the entire culture and really started having people talk about what it was like to be gay was Ellen DeGeneres.
Susan, I'm gay.
It forced so many people, particularly within the media, to grapple with the whole idea of what is it like to be gay? What is it like to bring gay identity into people's living rooms? What is it for an actress in Hollywood to come out? Ellen really kind of just opened the floodgates.
Poor guy came down for a ding-dong and found a couple of Twinkies. Just because if I was in a monogamous, faithful relationship with a man for 10 years, I would never be allowed to marry him. But if I met some strange woman in a bar, we could be married within an hour, and every state in the Union would applaud it just like that.
Shouldn't have written all that stuff. It's okay. It's obviously not okay, since you'll barely even talk to me. I just want to be friends.
Will you have Eric to be your spouse, to love him, comfort him in sickness and in health?
The little boy is officially here.
You did it. We have a baby.
Will you take it easy? You're not gonna comp a feel over a cup of coffee.
Okay, so maybe he's bi. Who cares? His cousin can still drive. What? He is what? Do you hear these terms she's throwing around?
She's an actress, comedian, and a dyke.
In the end, they saw that no matter how much there was an uproar, there were a lot of people who really liked the programming, and that they realized that it really wasn't a big risk, that they could actually start to portray gay and lesbian people's lives.
1998 brought yet another first. First gay male leading man.
I think I'm about to kiss you. I think I'm about to be kissed.
Gay sex is so hot.
Whenever the networks decided we want to have two women kiss, we want to have two men kiss, you know, all the advertisers got incredibly nervous about this. So it's actually kind of both disturbing and funny when you see the way that they got around doing this sort of thing.
This is it. This is it. This is not it. Where's the camera going? Why are we looking at fireplace?
Get off the flames and follow the flamers!
Will and Grace received some of the highest ratings for a network sitcom in 2004, but
Will and Jack still represent to some limited depth in terms of their portrayal of gay life and gay people, because you never see them in relationships.
Gay people on television have been much more well-behaved than the straight people. And I think that's where we're not seeing the complications of gay sexuality and the intricate nature of our lives. To this day, we keep hearing about the boyfriend who's coming and the kiss that's going to happen, and yet this man, through this whole time on this series, hasn't had a lot of sex.
As we entered the 21st century, queer moments were popping up all over the dial.
A lot of gay bookstores for a straight neighborhood.
Yes, ladies, I'm a lesbian.
Cable, particularly, had begun pushing the limits of gay characterization while still catering to the mass market.
1, 2, 3.
Michael, Brian, like you to meet Kent.
Trent.
Trent.
I think it's great that we have shows like The L Word and Queer as Folk, even if they don't represent everybody. They're both groundbreaking in that we are seeing people who are openly gay, who are dealing with dilemmas in their lives that I think a lot of us deal with, even if we don't look like them or you know, act like them, or, you know, they're dealing with relationships, they're having sex. And I think that is a big change, particularly from network television.
The networks kind of are breathing a sigh of relief, going, okay, well, let them do all the controversial stuff. Let them be more open about nudity and you know, sex scenes and that sort of stuff, so the advertisers will get off our backs about any of the gay stuff that we do on the air.
I was so embarrassed, I just hoped I'd...
The 21st century has also given us acclaimed shows in which gay characters are integrated into shows that aren't specifically gay.
When did morning happen?
Something wrong?
Kima is a character that you don't see on television. You don't see, actually, you know, in film. I mean, you see certain aspects of that character, but not one like her.
Kima is a TV rarity, both as a lesbian of color and as a fully drawn queer character.
I'm one of the few detectives that actually have a personal storyline. You know, as small as it is, it's there. So, you know, people are empathetic towards my girlfriend. You know, oh, come on, Kima. You know, why are you gonna do your girl like that? You know, she's behind you. Why you treat the baby like that? What's up? You know, so they really do get into our relationship as well. So that's been surprising.
In August 2003, Here TV launched the first national gay cable network, initiating the next chapter in queer television, 24/7 gay TV. Currently using a pay-per-view format and reaching over 24 million households, Here TV is halfway through its second season and recently announced round-the-clock programming. Palm Springs-based Q Television has also gotten into the 24/7 game. And MTV Networks is expected to launch its gay channel, Logo, on digital cable in February.
I grew up in a small town in the 1970s. My friends and I experienced homophobia firsthand. I felt like I didn't fit in or belong. I felt publicly ostracized and was in pain. There were no role models I could look to. No one for me to say, I want to be just like her. So instead, I turned to thoughts of suicide, drugs, and alcohol. That's why 10 years ago, when MTV asked me to come out as a lesbian on The Real World, I knew I had to say yes. Visibility saves lives, helps build progress and change, and makes a difference. I'm Beth Anthony, and you're watching In the Life.
Since its inception, television has been, at its most fundamental level, a medium for advertising. News and entertainment may be the means, but selling products has always been the end. After all, advertising has traditionally been the industry's sole source of income, and the beliefs and perceptions of advertisers have long determined who gets represented and how.
Cheers?
Lots and lots of advertisers now use LGBT themes in their ads to usually evoke humor and comedy. Unfortunately, not very often are they doing it for the sake of diversity and fair representation.
Hey, Cookie, what's for breakfast?
Nothing, honey.
Kellogg's not honey. Crunch.
$60 billion in advertising, so it's a very important, very powerful market.
Ultimately, companies care about money, regardless of what they profess to care about.
Every time a niche group enters the mainstream, there's always that moment where they give up part of who they are to be part of a larger whole.
Well, what happened in the beginning is not surprising, which was complete invisibility. In the 70s and 80s, the idea started to come around that, you know, there are gay people and it's sort of interesting.
What is that wonderful fresh scent? It must be the laundry.
But it wasn't really until the mid to late 90s that it really started getting going. And the range of stereotypes, along with the increasing acceptance of lesbian and gay people, has shown to this day a great variety of representations.
The early history of television was really following on from the history of radio. And early on in radio, basically in the Communications Act of 1934, Congress basically said that they would give the airwaves to broadcasters, but broadcasters had to fund a rating service to tell who in the public was listening. And then for television, it just sort of followed suit.
The industry soon found a second use for ratings, one that would quickly become central to the business of broadcasting and that would make Nielsen Media Research an industry linchpin.
Most importantly, ratings serve a function of currency, that broadcasters are selling advertising time on television, and the value of that advertising is based on how many people watch the show. Those numbers are agreed to by buyers and sellers. That enables a sort of coherent marketplace for advertising.
So in the television world, the images of gay folks have been subservient to sales.
IKEA is famous for its commercial showing a male couple shopping together.
Well, you know, we went to IKEA because we thought it was time for a serious dining room table, and
We have slightly different tastes. I mean, Steve's more into country. It frightens me, but at the same time, I have compassion.
It was a breakthrough ad in '94, and it was the first to honestly depict a gay male couple together.
this table included a leaf.
A leaf means staying together, commitment. We've got another leaf waiting when we really start getting along.
Unfortunately, the commercial was ahead of its time. After only one airing, some of the stores in the United States got bomb threats, and they decided to pull the commercial after that to, for the sake of safety. 1997 was a turning point year. That was the year that Ellen came out in her program. And a lot of advertisers started to grow out of that, whether they were aware of it or not. On that program, in fact, Volkswagen ran a commercial. It's fairly well known with the Da 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 song. Da, da, da. Da, da, da. Da, da, da. It wasn't clear whether they were roommates or partners or what, but because it aired on this gay program, a lot of people watching thought that it was intended to show a gay couple.
The German-engineered Volkswagen Golf. It fits your life, or your complete lack thereof.
For the record, Volkswagen says that was not what they had intended, but it was okay for people to think so.
But visibility isn't always benign.
Television advertising right now is still largely doing LGBT themes for gratuitous purposes. They're really just trying to get the general audience to laugh, oftentimes at the expense of the LGBT community.
You're late.
Never leaving this room again.
Why?
This TJ Maxx designer thingy? My gorgeous creations, my skirts, ties, my towels, all of it.
Part of it is they want to exploit the discomfort that a lot of people feel with homosexuality for the purpose of humor.
He's totally in the open. This magic moment.
Oh. Others are doing it to have sort of an edgy cachet, where maybe they're a new brand and they want to have an edge to them.
Mom, Dad, if you're watching, I want you to know I finally found the person I want to spend the rest of my life with. Mom and Dad, this is Jen. Hi.
Show your colors.
Now, after all, advertising isn't about social change. It, of course, is about selling products.
Advertisers who are interested in the gay market have been confounded by a lack of good research.
Is there opportunity to improve the accuracy and the reliability of the numbers? Of course.
Nielsen pulls most of its raw data from the U.S. Census, in which sexual orientation is not reported. So a control group that includes queer audience in the rating system has been elusive.
I mean, realistically, breaking a demo group out, you have to think of it now, this is marketing, this is advertising. And so, kind of all the other issues aside, what you're doing is you're creating a marketing entity.
It's not like I walked in the door and said, hey, there's this lesbian show, and everyone was like, great, that's a really broad market. It wasn't like that.
We're in a slightly different environment than the broadcast and the basic cable networks are. We don't have to sell time to advertisers. We have people that specifically subscribe to us. So in this environment, we can grow a show.
Pay stations obviously don't sell advertising, so they're not using our numbers as a currency for advertising sales. But they do use our numbers to get a sense of how many people are watching various programs, or if there was any turn away from those programs, at what point in the program did people turn away from it.
We never had any issues from our clients. We never had any angry people calling us. We never had any of that. We had an environment that was like any other programming debut. Some people were interested, some people weren't, but most people were, and they wanted to see what it was about.
Certainly the way television is going, with niches, lifestyle niches, sports niches, rock climbing niches, certainly someone needs to fund that programming. And by distributing it far enough across the country, you can build a large enough audience.
And the LGBT community represents only one part of the overhaul that's needed.
We're working with GLAAD and in terms of running a separate panel to try to measure viewership among gay and lesbian populations, investing a lot. The techniques that we might employ that might turn out to be very effective at encouraging participation of minorities.
It is great to have a community, but do you want to get on the highway and get there faster and be part of something that everybody else is, or do you want to stay on the back roads and be much more myopic about your experience? That's a personal decision, but anytime anything's aggregated into the larger culture, it's going to take on a piece of the larger culture and retain part of its own identity. And gay people will arbitrate that and decide that at every moment as they go forward.
I think eventually the same thing will happen in advertising, where we reach a critical mass of awareness and interest is going to start falling. People aren't going to be as surprised anymore with a gay twist. And so I think what we'll be left with is that advertisers moving forward will have representations, but more for the sake of diversity and representing what society really looks like, rather than just surprise.
Kelly would go with me to events. I won the Emmy. I thanked her from the stage way before I came out. It wasn't really a secret. I didn't really think that the act of saying it would change how I felt about my own life, but it did, profoundly. There's a sense of freedom and dignity and a lack of shame that has made me feel better about myself in a way I had not expected. I wish I had been ready sooner, frankly. I wish the week after my show premiered, I would have said, and by the way, I'm gay. Okay, let's go. In hindsight now, I know that the ones of us who are ready will hopefully mentor and inspire those of people who are not yet ready. And to know that we're all brothers and sisters, all of us. And, to shame one for not acting in the way you want them to act in terms of coming out or not is just as bad as George Bush shaming us all. Hi, I'm Rosie O'Donnell, and you're watching In the Life.
Still to come on In the Life. Bending reality.
What are you doing? You're changing guys gay?
Conjugating the L word.
I don't really call myself anything now but married.
And telling it like it is.
The backslide of our freedom has just begun.
The relatively new phenomena of reality TV has struck perhaps the richest vein of gay and lesbian imagery on television. But what is reality TV, and how did we get here?
People in general love to see themselves. You like to feel that you're normal. It's kind of like one big psychotherapy session where, oh wow, okay, so I'm not strange. From The Amazing Race to The Apprentice to Survivor, those are amazing shows because you have the competition element in there and the gaming aspect of it versus Dog, Bounty Hunter, and all of them, and are they kind of oddball areas to explore? Yeah, they are, but they're cool because you get to see a different story, and inevitably it is a story. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end.
In a CNN USA Today Gallup poll, 23% of people surveyed believe that reality TV is totally phony.
Let's remember it's reality television as a genre, and I believe that's an important framework to put over any discussion about these kinds of shows.
While 57% believe that reality TV represents a distorted picture of events.
Honestly, Big Brother is the most realistic reality show on television.
Do you cross-dress?
No. We have no direction from producers. We're held accountable on camera 24 hours a day for 7 days a week, and so I really think that as far as the experience I've had, it was very intense and very realistic. But they're the same thing. No, there's a big difference between drag queens and gay people. Just because you're gay doesn't mean you want to be a woman. Okay.
One reality of reality TV is it has given the LGBT community visibility on TV like never before.
When you take a real close look at how we're visible on television, you find us relatively invisible on network scripted programs. You find us quite visible and quite diverse on cable television. But the place you'll see us most on network television is in reality programs.
Programmers have figured out what gay people have known all along, which is gay people make great television.
I know gay people that, like, I had no clue that they're gay.
I'm not here to stop anyone else. I'm here to live and to share myself and to make this world a better place.
Growing up in Mississippi, MTV in the real world was my only access to homosexuals. And first it was Norm on the Real World, and then I remember Pedro, who gave us not only the gift of being gay, but being the first gay American to really take his HIV status very publicly and really touch the youth market in a way that hadn't been touched before.
The very first person that I ever saw on television that I identified as definitely gay was Pedro on The Real World. He was sort of the first out gay person. I think that was real brave of MTV and real brave of Pedro to sort of be out there.
He definitely put a face on a disease for so many young people, which was extremely important. And I think was the first gay person that a lot of people really got to see being themselves.
And he had HIV and has since then died, and really sort of brought, I think he was the first person that really brought an awareness in a very real sense.
From that pivotal moment, we have seen an explosion of memorable gay characters in reality TV.
It's almost a condition of the casting of a show to have a gay person in the show. Richard Hatch probably did more for the perception of gay people in America than just about any event in television before that. And the reason I say that is because he was on being himself, and because he was an unlikable character, and because he didn't seem gay, people were more judging him as any other person rather than as a gay character. And he sort of became an evil character who, on a show that happened to be gay. I think whenever anybody can make the gay part the second part of the sentence, instead of saying, oh, there's gay so-and-so, instead this is so-and-so who is gay, it's a tremendous difference.
In 2002, another breakthrough phenomenon in reality TV hit the airwaves with a title that left nothing to the imagination, but made some people nervous.
I remember when Queer Eye started, I was nervous about the name. At the time, the word queer made me think of Queer Nation. It made me think of gay political activism and marches and protests. And it's a word that's still tough for some people to digest.
In the back of our minds, you hear that, hey, you little queer. I mean, all that's resounding. So it's like, what's the show called? And they're like, Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. Oh, okay.
When we sat down to really tear apart the format and figure it out, everything at that time was actually extremely mean-spirited. It was always about voting off or kicking off or telling someone how bad they are. And we really wanted to twist that up, and we brought it from a place of make better.
A little kid will come up to us and, who will say, I can't tell you how much this means to me. I love the show. You guys are such amazing role models.
The world was ready, obviously, to embrace something that summer 2 years ago in which the idea of 5 gay men and a straight guy and putting them in the same world and realizing not the differences, but the similarities.
People would see you walking down the mall, down the aisle in the mall, and they'd be like, ooh, there's that queer guy. And now, literally, like moms and dads, kids, teachers are like, hey, yo, it's the queer guy.
But in an exploitative and ever-changing form of TV, it is not only imperative to monitor how gays are being portrayed, but how they are being perceived.
We used to get phone calls. What are you doing? You're changing guys gay? You're turning them gay? Oh, yes, we're good at that. There's that secret button that you press. It was just ridiculous.
TV programmers have to be careful. They have to be careful. We're second-class citizens. We still get beaten up every day in the halls of high schools and colleges.
In the spring of 2004, Fox TV attempted to launch a show called Seriously, Dude, I'm Gay.
Basic premise of the show is 2 straight bigoted guys are taken to West Hollywood, California, where for 1 week they have to pretend to be gay. The one who passes wins $50 grand. The other one goes home. They have to go out on a date. During the date, they have to spank their date. They have to fork feed their date. They have to come out to their best friend. And there is a mockery of the whole process that was palpable.
As part of their transformation into believably gay guys, the straight dudes had to go on a blind date with a man. What they didn't know was that we set them up with each other. And each guy totally thought the other one was totally gay and really into him. So it shook up everyone's conception of what it means to identify as gay.
The worst piece of it was the look on the face and the reaction of the person who did not win. The person who did not win essentially looked at the camera and said, I humiliated myself on national television and I didn't win a dime. And he had that look on his face that reminded me of a certain episode of Jenny Jones.
I mean, that is ridiculous to the point of being laughable. The guy who lost the contest, meaning he was found too hetero to win the money, would be so outraged at his gay coaches for not making him gay enough that he'd hurt someone. If anything, this show would make straight guys more tolerant and accepting.
I believe that GLAAD's job is to take a look at this programming and say, what's the viewer takeaway from this? Is the homophobia validated or is it challenged? When I finished watching this pilot, I said, we need to talk to Fox. They really should not run this.
And before a scheduled meeting with GLAAD, Fox pulled the show before it aired.
I think it's unfortunate that a group that was founded with very well-intentioned principles like GLAAD, is now putting themselves in a position to judge and to basically censor other gay creative people's work. There's a very sophisticated audience out there who doesn't need to be protected.
As the genre of reality TV continues to push the envelope, we have to carefully walk the line between inclusion and exploitation.
I hope that I'm making the right choice.
Boy Meets Boy, for example, I found some of the straight guys who were voted off to say some of the most interesting and refreshing things.
I really learned that you have no idea who is and who isn't, and it really doesn't matter. Just love everyone for who they are, bottom line, as human beings.
I love that straight people could sort of have fun with the whole idea of there being a gaydar and trying to figure out who's trying to fake being gay and who really is gay. And I thought the most moving part of that show was when a straight guy got voted off and he would look to camera and say, now I understand what it's like to be gay.
I like television that takes me to a different place, makes me laugh and relax. And so I think even if I wasn't on Queer Eye, I would probably really like the show.
What we're finding is that as people are making these programs, developing these ideas, they think about including us. And yes, there is a heightened sensitivity.
I think the transgendered individuals in our society today are definitely the next group that is going to capture national attention in a big way, in the same way that gay people have.
But I also think we need to keep a very watchful eye.
In the end, the audience will serve as the ultimate watchdog. If they are uninterested or offended, the show will fail.
Originally, the station in Tulsa, Oklahoma wouldn't air Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. And then they were showing old reruns of Coach. And after a couple weeks of Craig T. Nelson, they were saying, bring on the fags, come on.
You have this opportunity that to change people's minds and hearts that might not have been open to things before.
What we ask for when we talk with programming executives is to be included, to be part of the fabric of the representations in television and film. Nothing more, nothing less.
You don't have to like what we do, but you can't, judge us and condemn us and deny us our rights.
We're your friends. We're in your living room every Tuesday at 10. That's an incredible privilege.
Who knew that chocolate mousse and throw pillows would be such a powerful mechanism for social change?
When we were picked in the show, though, we didn't understand the politics. We didn't think about, we're going to change the world, all the rest of it, because what if we had lost in the first day? They asked us, what do you want to be called? Do you want to be called boyfriends or friends or married or whatever? And we said married, just because we were. I definitely thought that, geez, if we win this and do something, a lot of people are going to see us, and they're going to see the moniker married, and logically, what goes along with that? This is a family station. They did something revolutionary. Hi, I'm Chip Arndt from The Amazing Race, and you're watching In the Life.
Over the past few years, Showtime Networks has introduced 2 shows that not only feature queer characters, but are also set in queer cultures. And one of those shows, The L Word, is also the first commercial television show to develop major lesbian characters at all. So tonight, In the Life goes behind the scenes for the new season of The L Word.
I sat down with a couple of executives and I said, I know this is kind of a crazy idea, but I just think we should do a lesbian ensemble drama. And they kind of looked at me and concurred that it was a crazy idea.
I didn't have any representation of somebody gay on TV, so I would go into this sort of fantasy world when I watched television. For instance, Facts of Life. I really thought that Joe and Blair had something special going on. It just goes to show that when you're left with nothing, you have to sort of make do.
I have some recollection of them saying, I don't think that we could ever sell this to the suits upstairs. All in the course of a season, everything that was supposed to happen happened. They ordered my script. We went forward, we cast the show, which was really challenging.
All these actors have agreed to play these gay characters. Ed, I don't know why that's such a taboo, because a lot of people do it. But with regards to women, again, there hasn't been a show where every female character is gay.
I think the straight world is starting to come out of its closet and say, okay, here's the deal. These are my friends, these are my brothers, my sisters, my parents. These are people that I care about, and I want to see my world reflected in my entertainment, and it hasn't been.
I went to Showtime as opposed to a network because I wanted to be free to tell these stories as I felt they needed to be told. I wanted to be frank, especially about sex and sexuality, because that's really the theme of the show.
Come on, help me out here. You know I mean it. One of my best friends, they didn't know what was wrong with her. Wrong. She was normal. She was gay. We couldn't be friends because I was black and she was white. I got a note from her later on saying she was sorry that we didn't get to have a friendship while we were growing up as little girls. The gay and lesbian world really kept my career and what I had done in the past totally out in the open. They were so supportive because they believe art doesn't retire and go away.
I don't understand.
I'm pregnant.
And you're happy about that?
Daddy.
We haven't really come that far when you think about it, you know what I mean? At least I feel, you know, as a society in terms of just accepting homosexuality, I feel like we've gotten better, you know, as a nation, but have we really when there are just still discriminatory things that happen every day?
You are just so gay. So gay.
I know. I know.
I thought that I understood gay issues, and I thought I was totally in tune. I had no clue. And I realize now it's sort of like the minute you start to learn about something, you realize how little you know.
I think in America, I think it's probably really important, especially with the state of things as they are now, becoming more and more conservative as you watch the way the politics is going. I mean, who knows what the situation is going to be by the time this airs. But yeah, I think it's very important here, and I think it's necessary. This kind of drama is definitely necessary.
With it comes an audience who may not have a good comprehension of the gay and lesbian world, which is what I want, what I would love to have for them to come and learn.
As a straight woman, to play a gay character, it's very interesting how other people react to you.
I have a secret. What? I've never actually attended
A lot of my male friends think it's the most exciting thing ever, which is kind of odd, and I'm a bit disappointed in them, I have to say, because they all find it like, really? You're gonna get like together with other women and we're gonna be able to watch it on TV? And it's like, that's obviously what the L Word is up against.
I always considered myself bisexual from the minute I was 16. I said that in interviews, I said it to The Advocate. I've made a commitment. It's to a man. If you want to call me heterosexual, fine. I don't really call myself anything now but married.
Paid any attention?
Yeah, but you guys, she's got 9 in the les column and she only has 7 in the straight.
Yeah, but the margin of error is plus or minus 5 percentage points.
Are we to say that I shouldn't play Tina because I'm married? But what if I was the only one in the room that nailed it? Didn't I win that part?
There's always shame.
Good. Take, you know, someone like Mia or Kate or anyone else. What if they don't want to ever comment on their sexuality? Or what if they change their mind?
It's when somebody kind of invades your personal space. It's you come out, you know, to do these things, you're promoting a show, you're promoting a job that you did to get people interested and invested in it and to promote it. And of course, you know, people want to know about who you are in real life, but of course, like, there's an element of respect when it comes to that, because I don't bring my personal life on that screen.
No, look, it's cool. I totally dig the need to make a living. I'm meeting a client anyway.
I get it as a political argument. I get it that it might be frustrating to some people in the community, but it just goes right back to, can't we just celebrate the show? Shouldn't we just celebrate the show?
Apple 18, Charlie, take 1.
I've done scenes before with men, actors, and they push it and they know they're pushing it. The director will call cut and they will continue doing what they're doing. And it's like, you know, we've cut now, you can unhand me. You're not going to get that with on set, working with other women.
When it comes to the sex part of it all, you just kind of got to, as the straight girl, you got to ask questions, and thank God I work with open-minded people that have no problems expressing, like, well, a woman's clitoris, you know what I mean, and you just go for it.
Yes, we get to tell the truth on PBS. The funniest thing to me is that a lot of straight girls come up to me and they sort of whisper to me that they like the show. They're like, I really like the show. And they're like sitting next to their boyfriend. Like they're not allowed or something.
I think we had some criticism earlier for like, oh, we're too lipstick, it's too polished, it's too glammy. I mean, I'm from New York, so I mean, I had tons of friends in New York, you know, gay and straight, that'd be like, you guys just started way too polished.
I do get a lot of flack sometimes with you, well, you know, you're not representing this person, you're not representing that person, and it's true, but we are representing this particular group of people.
If I saw the big picture of the weight, the burden that we have, I think I wouldn't leave my house. I'd live in the barn and just stay there and let my hair grow nappy.
Obviously, I understand there's political things behind it, but sometimes you have to just step away and step outside of the box.
I don't think the cast of Friends is necessarily representative of Manhattan. But it's kind of hard to represent an entire city on one sitcom, let alone an entire community of people on one show. Being the first of its kind, there is so much pressure to get it right, and there are always going to be people who think we don't get it right, but we get it right for this group.
The big difference for us this season is that we're better filmmakers. The actors have really deepened their characters.
It's great, now the two of you can be together.
We hang out with each other all the time, and we talk about our scenes, and we talk about the scripts, and we talk about our characters, and we talk about how to make things better, or, you know, how to make it more real.
And cut.
The writers know their material better. We worked with great filmmakers, and our crew have honed their kind of systems for getting the work done.
Yeah, let's shoot it.
It's not like working on another cop show or something. It's just, it has so much meaning behind it.
Like their hair, I mean, but their hair sort of... Oh my God, we're so offended. We're like, but what?
And I am so proud to be a part of something like that.
It's funny, doing what I'm doing now, being on this show and being sort of this kind of role model is better than anything I probably expected to get out of my career.
Television is the venue in which we get to talk about our lives at large, and we get to keep on saying it because our stories don't end. Television is the perfect medium for that.
Everything we do in life should be on television and should be analyzed, how well we're doing, where it was, where it is, and where it's going.
It's a beginning, it's a celebration, I think, of this show is here, it's about time. And what I hope is that we just keep on telling great stories.
Remember everybody as if they're looking at the parade. 34 out, we'll take 1. Yeah. Hey, Mark.
Growing up as an African-American man, I've had to face many forms of discrimination. Playing the character of Keith Charles, a gay man, a gay cop, on HBO's 6 Feet Under, has opened my eyes up to other forms of discrimination that plague our society. I challenge all of us to step up to the plate and don't allow fear to stop us from being who we are and contributing to society in the ways that we feel comfortable. I'm Mathew St. Patrick, and you're watching In the Life.
And finally, In the Life's regular commentator and four-time Tony winner, Harvey Fierstein, raises questions about another form of representation.
Oh, jeez. Are we ready? Getting all worked up. Oh, forget it. One of the most indelible moments in the Academy Award-winning documentary, The Times of Harvey Milk, occurs after the assassination. Dan White has slain Harvey and the mayor of San Francisco, and in response, our community filled the streets of the Castro, candles in hand, and marched in a moving testament to their grief and solidarity. But one lone voice cut through the sobs and whispered reverence. Tom Amiano recalls a seemingly homeless man crying out to the tens of thousands marching, "Where is your anger?" Harvey Milk, our first openly gay elected official, had been murdered by a small-minded, jealous, bigoted heterosexual. We were robbed of a hero. We were reduced immeasurably in our representation. We lost a clarion voice for our silenced majority, and we responded to that violence en masse with a loving tribute instead of storming City Hall and demanding retribution. Where indeed was our anger? But when Dan White escaped the murder conviction, we found our anger. And it wasn't pretty. But the legacy of our outrage is openly gay and lesbian elected officials all across the nation. Decades later, when an overpowered Mathew Shepard was found slumped on a lonely Wyoming fence, tears streaking the lifeblood dried on his face, again the cry went out, "Where is your anger?" Many of us called to the community for action, for justice, for an end to free speech, for politicians and religious leaders and community watchdogs who spread bigotry and encourage such violence. Most of our anger was drowned in our sorrow and silenced in rhetoric. But enough remained to beget anti-hate crime bills in cities and states. And now we have witnessed an election season where even our friends felt free to spit on us. No one was surprised to hear G.W. Bush call for legislation against us. But where were our allies? John Kerry, for whom I hosted the most profitable GLBT fundraising dinner ever held in New York, told the nation he would support a constitutional amendment in Massachusetts to ban gay marriage. Can you imagine? Instead of standing up and saying, "Hey, we've had gay marriage for months in Massachusetts and no one's getting hurt, no one's getting special rights, no heterosexual marriage is suffering, so let's stop the panic and act like rational adults." Instead of standing up for reason and equal justice, he used his national platform to say that it was okay to discriminate. With friends like Kerry, we might as well have Clinton. Oh, I know there are those among us who think Clinton was our pal, and I am certainly among those who are grateful that Bill spoke our name and hired us openly for his White House and treated us with a modicum of respect. But let us not forget that it was on his watch that the Defense of Marriage Act was created, and he signed it into law. And it was on his watch that Don't Ask, Don't Tell became official policy, causing higher rates of anti-gay violence and record-breaking discharges from service. Where was our anger then? My brothers and sisters, I'm not usually an alarmist, but I feel that someone needs to say this. If they can so easily pass laws to ban us from marriage, none of our rights can be taken for granted. If community standards is reason enough to legislate anti-gay discrimination, the backslide of our freedom has just begun. I beg you to take a long, hard look at the election results from around the country. Get in touch with your anger and put it to work. If we do not, I promise our community will be attacked by the fascist right in the name of decency and family values with unprecedented vigor. Better to find your anger now than wait for the next election and ask, where are my rights?
I'm Laura Linney. For all of us at In the Life, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next month.
In the Life is funded in part by the H. Van Ameringen Foundation. Additional support provided by the Ford Foundation, the Gill Foundation, the Pride Foundation, the Jim Stepp and Peter Zimmer funds of the Stonewall Community Foundation, and the annual support of In the Life members like you.